I've seen you before at the Inner Circle, but for anybody who hasn't had the chance to see you in person, what's your experience and what's your background and where are you now? Yeah,
I've been working as an architect for all my life since university. I've been studying architecture. I've been studying art for many years, and after the uni, I started working as an architect.
yeah,
I studied in Milan, in Italy. So I started working for an Italian company, and I've worked for this company for more than 10 years. I've worked for various offices of this company. I worked in Milan, I worked in Moscow, I worked in New York. I ultimately ended up working in London, all for the same company. And our company was the company I used to work for has been doing projects in conjunction with some of the world's most renowned brands, like fashion brands, automotive brands. We've collaborated with brands like Fendi, Dolce Gabbana, Bentley, Bugatti, you name it. There's a whole bunch of different brands, and all the projects were uh, insanely high end. They were all super beautiful, and it was all from private villas to big residential developments. Branded towers, branded villages, and so on. So it's been a very fascinating experience, and I've been very fortunate to have been working on these projects. But after doing it for many years, I just at some point asked myself a question whether I want to continue to do this type of projects, or I want to actually stop and build something of my own. um, I guess you may say I got tired of working for other people, and I decided to sort of become my own architect, my own client,
yeah,
which is kind of the whole where the whole idea with property and in hotels in particular started. So I joined Samuel Leeds Academy 3 years ago. Shortly after joining, I bought my first property, first buy, refurbish, refinance property, and at the end we converted it to two serviced accommodation or three serviced accommodation units in one building, and it was very successful. It still is very successful, but it kind of gave me the whole idea of what I really wanted to do, because I'm very passionate about hospitality in general. I'm very passionate about service accommodation, about the hotel, both on the technical side. So I'm a bit of a geek in terms of systemization, etc., but also on the user experience side. So we in our brand we love to create spaces which are actually a bit more than just a place to stay, that are design led, that are thought through, and that's kind of how the whole idea about the whole concept of creating a network of apart hotels came to mind. And I mean, we're still on our way. We're still building it. We have done since that first project. We've done a couple of other BRRs to service accommodation, until ultimately we bought last year, or actually this year, we bought our first actual real hotel, real
mm,
C1 hotel building, which is in Lake District. It is running now. We've done a light refurb. We're planning to do a bit more invasive, a bit more, a bit bigger refurb in the future. But yeah, that's kind of the whole idea. And the goal is to build this network of design-led, beautiful, high-end, trusted, serviced, not serviced accommodation, apart hotels nationwide, hopefully worldwide at some point.
oh yeah, yeah. You've got a great story, and yeah, thanks for jumping straight into it. Yeah, I just wanted to unpack a few things out of that. So
Sure.
you started as a an artist. That's your sort of nature.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Yeah. Because there's a stigma or a typical thing with artists that they don't necessarily do well in business. How did you overcome that? And is there anything you can recommend to artists who have a similar sort of
Mm.
problem like
hmm
that?
Well, I don't think I can say that I have overcome it
Right,
because
right.
there is still there is still there's still a lot to learn for myself as well in terms of investment and efficiency of your investment. I always joke that I'm like that cartoon from the 90s where you would get like an angel on one shoulder and a demon on the other shoulder,
Oh
and you
yeah.
would have the artist or the architect saying, "Let's do this," and then the investor would be saying, "No, actually, it makes no sense. It brings no money." So I always have these two, speaking to left and right ears
Yeah.
of mine, but. It's all about just doing it, learning it, making what I like to call after action report. So every time you do something, you complete the project, you then analyze what went right, what went wrong, where you overspent, where you didn't need to go through, or where you actually should have pushed a little bit further, should have invested a little bit more to get to a better result. So I don't think there is a recipe. The recipe is just doing it, learning it as you go.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. You've got the investor hat on one side and the artist on the other side, but the question is which one's the demon and which one's the angel?
Well, it depends. It depends on who's judging, because if I had to compare myself now to the great architects, great designers of the world, they would probably laugh at my projects now because they would not be as as interesting or as exclusive or as one of a kind, etc. Um, but if an investor side from the other end would look at some of my first project, they would laugh because they would be overly focused on details on the design, which costs a lot, but not necessarily brings enough money back. So I guess what you said initially, that artists make don't make very well in business. Well, same goes for architects, because architects, as architects, we are rarely exposed to prices, to numbers, to figures, right? We tend to study, like, if you imagine, we will study for 7 years, right? In some countries
Wow.
even more. So you
Yeah.
study and you don't really learn about numbers, about cash flows. Maybe you have a course somewhere during those 7 years, but not really. You're mainly focusing on concepts, on form, on studying the grades of the architecture, from the pyramids to the modern architects and so on. So your main focus is mainly on the beauty, on functionality, and on concepts. So
Yeah.
architects are very big on concepts, on doing something that's stands out.
Okay,
So
yeah.
the numbers, they usually someone else's problem, because usually there would be, especially if we think about the great examples of architecture. Think about
Yeah,
your
I'm thinking
palaces,
about
and yeah,
Gaudi or
that's
something. But yeah.
exactly.
But
So
Gaudi didn't have to fund his own cathedrals, did he?
correct, exactly. So, and that's a bit of a, I mean, it's probably oversimplifying it a little bit, but generally, I think as a concept, it's true. So,
I'm sure
it's
it's nice to I'm sure it's nice to have that freedom as an architect and as an artist, not to be constrained uh, by finances and by return on investment and things like that. So it must be quite liberating from that perspective.
well, it's not that architects are not constrained by the budgets. It's more that architects don't really operate in that realm. That they operate, in um, in a bit of a magical world where we're trying to create better world in general,
Mm.
better in terms of, like I said, more beautiful, more functional, more smart, more sustainable. So the cost is usually something that's the last on the list of our priorities. So
Yeah.
for me, when I did my first project as client and architect, we had a very big trouble because we spent so much simply because the desire to make everything perfect it just overtook. So that side, that was the demon was the architect in that case, because we spent way too much on perfecting what otherwise would have been perfectly good investment project, even without all those little perfectionist details.
Yeah, I'm sure you can go too far with perfectionism, but I'm on your side in the regard that I don't like walking through the street and seeing ugly buildings, and it really frustrates me when they build a block of concrete in the middle of London, or they put a glass wall on a really old building, like the Natural History Museum, or I was thinking of the it's not the National Gallery in London, is it? It's one of the it's a national building and it's a big block
Yeah,
of concrete with like concrete point poking in different directions
sure.
opposite Westminster or something like that. So that
Yeah.
that kind of thing does get on my nerves as well. Um, so yeah, but you got to you made the leap to go into working for yourself, and then obviously when it's your own money, you've got to think about what's best to do with your money, and how to scale.
Yeah.
But do you think that's something that you would recommend to most? I don't want to. I mean, would you recommend it to everybody to take that leap and work for themselves, or do you think that's a very personal decision?
Look, there are. I think there are two um, opposing theories on that matter. I don't know if there are theories or there are just two groups of people who each of them believe in different statements. One statement is that once your life depends on it, you can really you have to perform and you have to achieve the success, right?
Mm.
The other belief is that um, you have to be careful, comfortable, calculating every step of the way. So I wouldn't just invite people to suddenly go and quit their jobs and go full time in property and whatever happens happens. It would be wrong to say that, because everyone is in different position. But
Yeah.
for myself, I always knew that I am a person of focus. I don't know if I have any. I haven't been diagnosed with any medical conditions, but I generally know that I cannot work on multiple different things at the same time. And when I just started in property, I was still at my day job, and I was combining the day job with the property investment. So I would I would take days off, or I would take afternoons off to go and view properties, etc. And then I would work on the evenings, drawing plans for our first buy refurbish refinance project, etc. But what I've noticed is that I started sort of half-assing both sides,
Yeah.
and for me, I just cannot do it. Like I either do it or I don't do it. So after maybe a few months, I just said, look, we have some savings, we can survive without having salary for a few months. So let me pull the plug, and I went full time in property. And luckily for me, it worked out, but it doesn't mean that that's the recipe I necessarily recommend everyone. So I just think that everyone should think for themselves. Don't do any reckless decisions, but also don't overthink. Take action, because action is much more important than anything. You learn by action, by doing things. You learn 10 times, maybe 100 times faster
Yeah.
than just by watching online courses, preparing spreadsheets, which is all very important, don't get me wrong, but it gets you only so far. But then action is what actually makes the leap happen.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a leap of faith. You didn't have it all figured out in property before you quit your
Absolutely.
job.
I still don't have it all figured out. I still don't have it all figured out. But
Well, I
we,
think.
like I said, our first project, the first couple of
Mm.
projects, they were quite successful. They're bringing good cash flow at the moment. So at least that part is paid off. The rest of the business, there's still a lot to figure out. There's still a lot to build. There's still a lot systemize. But like I said, we're only at the beginning. We only bought our first hotel, so maybe let's check again in a couple of years, see where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. So let's talk about the hotel,
Yeah.
uh, because that's the name of the podcast, I suppose. But it also it really does intrigue me the fact that you, for anybody who doesn't know, you took an Airbnb, well, sorry, a pre-existing B&B in the Lake District, which was run by a retired, a couple that wanted to retire, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, and you painted the whole thing black and put some nice curtains up, and are charging more. And break down what your thought process was with that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, I mean, you make it sound a bit too simple, but generally,
Yeah.
you got the gist. Yeah. So, first of all, there are so many hotels or bed and breakfast or guest houses in the UK which are run in exactly the same manner, where there would be an owner uh, with their own owner's accommodation somewhere at the back,
Mm.
and this owner does everything. This owner does the cleaning, the maintenance, the changeovers. They greet the guests. Maybe they even cook breakfast for them, etc. Which is kind of like this typical model that has been working for decades,
Yeah.
maybe even more than decades, probably
Oh,
centuries.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how still a lot of hotels, especially little hotels, still operate. So think about your 5, 7, 10, 15 bedroom guest houses.
Yeah.
Most of them will be operated under this model. But what happens is, first of all, the owners who bought these properties many, many years ago, in our case, the previous owners of our hotel bought it more than 20 years ago. So they bought it when they were young, and they bought into this dream of having a hotel, meeting people, running a successful business, which obviously is a great idea and great concept. But as time went by and as they were becoming older, it was becoming harder and harder for them to keep up. Obviously, with the maintenance, the building would be deteriorating, would need some fixing, some refurb. And moreover than that, they were trying to stay below the VAT threshold, so they were intentionally closing the place for a few months a year. Like they would close from November to February, basically, and would go somewhere warm. Because for them, stay there for just a few bookings didn't make much sense, but it would push them over the VAT threshold, so they would intentionally cap them at this level. So that's the first thing, and many of these owners, they are now or coming to the point where they're just tired. They've been doing it for many years, and they just want their life back. They want to have their freedom. They want to enjoy life. They may have children, grandchildren who they want to spend time with, and this was exactly the case with our hotel. Now, second problem with this model is that there are so many areas in the hotel that do not bring any revenue, right? So your kitchen, your owner's accommodation, your breakfast room, your lounge, none of these actually brings revenue to the hotel. Okay, they sometimes occupy up to 25-30% of the overall footprint, sometimes maybe even more. So if you
Right.
think
Yes.
about it, if you think of it as a business person, you have a property for which you're paying mortgage or rent or whatever it is, and only two-thirds of it is actually making money and one-third is not making anything. In fact, it may be even losing you money because when you cook breakfast and you serve breakfast, you don't really make any money on breakfasts. You still have to pay the council tax, your utility bills, the council tax, the business rates, they all remain the same, but a third of your property is not generating any income. So what our plan is, we have not implemented it yet, but what our plan is, when we go to the second phase of the refurb is to convert these spaces where the previous owners used to live, the kitchen, the breakfast room, to convert them to additional rooms so that we increase the turnover of the hotel. So we would go from 7 rooms to 9 or 10 rooms. We're still trying to understand what's the best mix, whether we make a few bigger apartments or more but smaller apartments. So, at the end of the day, by doing so, we simply increase the revenue by at least that 25-30%. But in our projection, it will be probably by about 50% compared to what it was before.
That's a big opportunity for an investor to put the obviously investor hat on and take over a struggling, tired business and then optimize it, not just through the obvious ways like hiring staff,
Yeah.
but literally converting parts where you would obviously live in, and then optimizing everything um, from from the use of the space to, I don't know if you how do you go further into keeping it without staff, where you don't have to, obviously you don't live in the hotel,
Yeah.
and how your staff functioning, and
So look, we
probably
live
phrase the question.
we live in such a fascinating times when everything is possible, right?
Yeah.
The technology is at such a level that you can literally do nearly everything.
Mm.
In terms of the hotels, the whole idea of having a reception desk, a nice smiley receptionist who greets you when you arrive, yeah, it still may work for for big hotels, for big resorts, etc. But when we talk about small boutique spaces, um, and especially when you look at it from an investor and a businessman perspective, you need to make every square meter of your hotel bring revenue as much as you can. So uh, we just went. Plus, sorry, the second thing that I wanted to say is I think the mentality of travelers has changed or is changing as well, because I think people value their privacy more and more, or at least if I judge for myself, when I travel, I don't want to meet anyone. I don't want to smile to anyone. I usually come late, tired. All I want is my key or my code, get to the room, take shower, go to bed, wake up next morning, relax and refresh. I don't want to
Yeah.
have a casual conversation about my trip, about the weather, etc. No offense, but it's just, I mean, that's me. And
Yeah.
I don't think I'm wrong by assuming that many people are like that. They just want to be left alone. They're traveling to a new city. If they need information, they'll Google. If they need directions, they'll put it on Google Maps. It's not. It, I mean, it maybe becomes a bit impersonal, but
There's a market for
also,
it though, isn't there?
yeah, yeah,
Because you've
exactly.
still got your
So
high-end hotels where you're going to get top-tier customer service,
yeah,
but you don't always
so
want that.
yeah, so in case of our both service accommodation and hotel, everything is done through self check-in. Everything is done through smart locks. We use very
Brilliant.
good level smart locks. We don't use things like key boxes, with keys, etc. Like we completely eliminated all that. Everything is via smart locks. Every guest receives a code, and this code is unique just for them for the duration of their stay. So
Yeah.
once they're out of the property, their code becomes invalid. So the next guest will have their own code now, and they never overlap and intersect. So
Yeah.
it helps us keep track of what's happening, which guests have arrived, who, when, because we can see everything on our app, right? So we can tell exactly at what time the guest checked in, checked out. If anything happens, and if we need to track who was the last one who accessed the building, we can always check by which code was used, etc. So it's very easy and smart. system, and it really optimizes a lot. And if for
Mm.
some reason something is working, we can always unlock the door remotely again from our phone, being 5 hours away from our hotel. So it has worked brilliantly for us. And I think generally it's a very good opportunity for many, especially smaller hotel investors, to just study this technology, learn how to implement it, and implement it. It requires a bit of upfront capital investment, but it's nothing compared to how much salary you would need to pay to a potential receptionist.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one aspect of looking at this hotel and thinking, how can I make it as good an investment as possible by optimizing it, making it really systemized, and then reducing that staff cost and reducing how much you have to be there. But from the other perspective, we've brushed over that the refurbs you do, but how do you really maximize on how much income you're actually getting? And what's your advice? And I know as an architect, you know how to make the property look beautiful. Is that right for every property? And yeah, so that's obviously that is another thing that helps you stand out among the competition of these older tired landlords. Um, so let's go into the refurb and what your thought process is when you look at a. I'm asking a lot of questions here, but when you look at a new property, how do you decide whether you go for the sort of beige airbrushed to the dark and moody and that kind of thing?
Well, I don't think there is right or wrong way. Okay,
Mm.
we so being an architect and coming from architecture background, I've spoken a little bit at the beginning about the whole idea of concept, right? For us architects, I don't know if anyone else cares, but for us,
Mm.
it's important to have a concept, right? So if you look at our Oxford essays, they are done in a very sort of Zen-like manner. So they're light, there's a lot of wood, and it's all very much urban but sort of calm, etc. With the hotel and lake district, we went the other way around because when we went there, and we've been going there for a few years just as a family, as tourists, um, we kind of get inspired by this darkness of local nature, right? You have local
Yeah.
slate, local stones, those caves, water in the lakes, etc. So all this, there are a lot of dark tones around. So we thought, well, why don't we reference that in our interior? So we created a space where, as you said at the beginning, we basically painted everything black. It's not black, by the way. It's a very specific shade of very, very, very dark blue. So it's actually
Okay.
called the color is by Farnball, and it's called railings. So if you think about railings, they are, I mean, they're black, but the feeling of this metal sort of
Yeah.
bluish color, that's
Mm.
kind of very resonate a lot with the slate, with the coal, with the charcoal of associated with being in the nature, etc. So that kind of what we did, and we, as you said, we basically went in and we painted everything in this dark color, and by doing so, we almost wiped everything, every imperfection, every little, wall that maybe was not perfectly straight, or it's an old building. It's
Yeah.
more than 130 years old, so obviously it's not perfect.
Mhm.
But when we applied that paint over everything, including the ceilings, the walls, the doors, it just completely transformed the original feel. So originally it was very um, sort of very typical, a little bit outdated with flowery wallpaper type of place, but we turned it into something very sexy, very velvety, I mean, it's just it is one of a kind. Not everyone
Yeah,
likes it, so we sometimes get comments like,
yeah,
"Oh, why is everything so black?" But you know, maybe 1 out of 20 will comment something like this. But generally, people when they see the pictures, when they come to stay, many people are very complimentary about how they felt, how they found themselves in this new unexpected space.
yeah. But I suppose you don't need to cater for everybody. Sometimes you just want to have people really catch their eye, and
That's true.
if
Yeah,
it's for them, then they'll find that property. Whereas you
yeah.
try and do something that everybody's going to be fine with, you don't have an audience.
Yeah,
Um,
you're just an average Joe. Yeah, and
yeah,
you need to stand out, especially in the field of hospitality, hotel, tourist accommodation. You need to stand out, not
yeah,
just with good quality, great cleaning, great customer service, which is the default. You have to be good at that, but also visually. The pictures. This is what sells. First of all, like people book your place because they see beautiful pictures.
yes,
They stay and they leave you good review because they had good customer experience, but they book the place because they like the picture.
yeah, that's key. And I suppose what you're saying with the concept, when you walk through the town, you're thinking about the guest experience as well. When you know, when you walk to that property, you're probably looking around and thinking, what do I now want to go to? Do I want to go to a room with white walls, or do I want to feel like I'm still in this town, where there's slate and moss and it's a little bit
Yeah,
dingy, but or whether you're in Oxford, you might want somewhere light and airy, or it's a city as opposed to a country thing as well, I
sure,
suppose.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
big time.
yeah, brilliant. So let's get on to what you are looking to do next. You said you're looking to expand the portfolio out, and how big is your ambition? I'm really keen to see what your next project's going to be.
Yeah, the ambition is big. The ambition is big. The plan is to create a network of design-focused apart hotels
Yeah,
nationwide. So we're looking pretty much everywhere in the country. We're looking for new projects. We're looking for new collaborations. We are mainly focusing on this type of small hotels,
mm.
uh, 5 to 15, maybe 20, 25 rooms max. So we're not looking at big resorts, big hotels, because we think that it's good to keep things relatively small, and we would rather have multiples of small boutique hotels around the country. Eventually, the plan is also to go worldwide. We have some good connections in continental Europe, in Dubai, in United States. So that will probably be the second step. But the first step is to establish ourselves nationwide. So small hotels, small blocks of apartments that can be converted into top quality, amazing design, serviced accommodation, or apart hotels. Yeah.
Yeah, so your brand is basically going to be very specific, and you're looking to find those people who do like what you do. You want to be able to cater for them in every sort of big city that they stay in. Is that what you're kind of thinking?
That's the plan. Yes. So you actually said it exactly right. What we want to create is this brand trust. So when someone had stayed with us in Oxford, and they need to go to Manchester,
Yeah,
they know that they want to book with us because they
yeah,
enjoyed staying with us so much. They don't want to look for anything else. So that's, I think, is the biggest ambition, because it's the hardest part to retain a client, right? It's easy to get a new client, but to retain a client is, I think, is the hardest part. So that's what we constantly working on. We're constantly improving our customer service, our automation, our systemization, so that there are no gaps anywhere. So we're working on it. We're still not there, but we're working on it, and we'll be there.
I can imagine you having your own app, and you can have these
You know
different
what?
locations.
You know what? We thought about it. We
Mm.
thought about it, but I also often think about the concept of just simplifying life, because having an app means it's just an additional step for the guest to do, right?
Yeah,
So
but you can kind of
I
keep
don't
it.
I don't have an answer to this, but
Mm.
right now I'm thinking maybe no to an
Yeah,
app, because like why would you if you can just get a message on WhatsApp or on your phone or an email with all the necessary instructions, if you can do everything online. I think apps, they were very trendy, and still are very trendy. But I think they only work for certain types of businesses. So I think if it's a business that you use on a daily basis, if it's something you use on a daily
true.
basis,
Yeah,
like your online banking or your food delivery or something like that, then yes, you need an app because you need this amazing quick customer service. But if it's something that you use once
yeah,
in probably in several years, like how often people go to Oxford, like
yeah.
if you think about globally, how often people from Germany go to Oxford? Well, they maybe go once in their lifetime. So would they need to install an app to do this? Like, I just
That's a
think
very
it's
fair point.
overcomplicating.
Yeah, it's always got to be about the guest experience, and that's
Yeah,
partly what I was thinking. Where if you had everything in one place and you knew where all the hotels that you like to stay in were, then it would be very easy to facilitate that using an app. But maybe there's another way to do that. While obviously, yeah, in terms of customer experience, I my storage gets filled up and I have to delete apps, and if I only use one once a year, then yeah, you're
yeah,
right, it's going in the bin.
yeah.
So very good point made there, and it's all about customer experience at the end of the day. But yeah, just some way of making sure that they know that there's other hotels like this in the country in the city that they want to go to next. Yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I may change my mind in a few years once we have 30, 50 hotels around the
yeah,
country. But as we stand right now, I think it's more important to just make the guest arrival and departure as seamless as possible without them having to stand in the rain in front of the front door, downloading the app on the roaming and just cursing that concept of doing it this way. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. For now, I think we're good with more simple system.
good, great. And your brand is called The Invited, is that right?
The brand is called The Invited. The brand is called The Invited, and it was the whole idea of creating that feel um, of a members club, but without being too exclusive. So we're not about exclusivity. So we don't want
Okay.
something that is only available to for a few. But the whole idea of the invite of being invited somewhere is kind of play of of the meaning of the words, because when you invite someone over to your place, this person is invited. So that's why we said let's call the brand The Invited, and that's how it kind of came came to be.
Yeah, it's great. I really appreciate your time. I just had one more very quick question,
Sure.
and that's for somebody who's watching this and wants to get started, they're like myself, where they don't have any property or a huge amount of finance. I just wanted to give you a chance to send a message out to anybody who's trying to get into the hotel space and where should they start and what is the priority in their thinking.
Well, I definitely don't suggest making a hotel your first investment, right?
Mm,
Because hotels are they're great in terms of cash flow, but they're also a lot of responsibility in terms of compliance, in terms of your outgoing costs every month. Your bills are much higher. Generally, it's more it's a higher risk type of business. So I would say um, until you actually learn the drills with things like service accommodation,
mm,
where the system and the process are the same, right, as a hotel. So your channel managers, your check-in, check-out instructions, your cleaners, your linen. Like once you learn that on a small scale, then by all means go and branch out to hotels. But first, I would say, get acquainted with the business model in general, practically on some service accommodations, which is how we started as well. The second advice would be to not worry too much about the big investment, because you don't have to buy hotels for hundreds, maybe millions of pounds, right? Sometimes, if you are smart, if you find the right property, the right landlord, or the right owner, you can do creative things. You can do things like lease option. You can do things like delayed completion. You can simply lease hotels for a number of years. So, um, in fact, as you know, I mean, and everyone's talking about it, that the big hotel chains, if you take anyone from Holiday Inn, Premier Inn, down to Hilton's, they don't own their hotels. They lease their hotels from somebody else. So uh, I think leasing hotel is much better. It helps you um, enter the market without big investment, big capital investment. Um, Especially if you are not looking to have your first hotel on in London Paddington Station, but if you're happy to go into smaller towns, smaller scale hotels, that can be done at a very reasonable monthly rent and very reasonable deposit. So I would just look at those, and I would see and always offer creative strategy, because even with our hotel, we didn't buy it outright, so we bought it on delayed completion scheme. We did not pay the full amount that was advertised initially. We will pay it during the next 5 years, but we definitely did not pay it upfront, and so you don't have to. If you find a
Yeah.
hotel which is for sale, always ask a question: would you accept a lease option? Would you accept a delayed completion? Would you accept just leasing it to us for a few years, and then maybe we can talk a bit more down the line? So yeah, just asking the question, the famous question, like, right, you have to always ask the estate agent, do you have anything else? But you also have to ask the hotel owner or the property owner, would you accept, a different offer, different strategy?
Yeah, so how many times do you think you had to ask a hotel owner before you got one to agree? Was that something you tracked or noticed?
Well, I mean, for us, it was, we have viewed a few hotels, but we've only made offer on one hotel,
Uh-huh.
and that was the only offer that was accepted. Well, they did not accept exactly the first offer that we made, but we also didn't go the full sort of asking price, the full purchase straight away.
Mm.
So there was a bit of a negotiation, but we were able to find to come to a good compromise that worked for both parties. So I think generally, especially if we talk about these sort of family-run operations, which are not, they're not corporate, they're not business people. They're just doing what they love. They're doing their own small business.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to maybe explain certain terms
Mm.
to them, because maybe they're not familiar with it, or they never heard about things like lease option, delay completion, etc. So yeah, I think it's just very important to speak, to be clear, to be upfront about what you want, to ask question what they want, because when you ask this question to a vendor or a potential vendor, you can find out so much about their situation, about what they actually need, what they want. Um, so in case of our hotel, it was exactly that. When we asked the question, well, what do you want? The lady who used to own the hotel basically said, well, we just want to pay off our mortgage and retire. So the next logical question was, well, how much do you still owe on your mortgage? And she said this much, and that's how much we offered as the deposit for the hotel. And then we offered the rent on top of that. So she got
Oh
her
wow.
mortgage paid off, and now she's receiving monthly rent from us, and she can do whatever she wants. So asking questions is very important, is even more important than giving some information to people. So keep that in mind, and that's not
That's
only relevant.
really good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not relevant only to hotels, it's relevant to everything, especially if you have direct contact with the seller. Just asking what's their situation, what they want out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually gone through that process and seen, well, of trying to get a viewing and then trying to pitch a lease option or, a delayed sale. And the agent said, oh no, they wouldn't accept that because they want to retire. But in fact, that actually, because you knew that and you were standing in front of the vendor themselves, you were able to see how you can cater for their needs as well.
If you can get yourself in front of the vendor
Mm,
without having to go through an agent, that's the best, especially if you can do it in person. If you can meet and you can just sit for a cup of coffee and just talk, and you can get the vibe, you can get the feel, and you can just understand each other better. And I'm not
okay.
talking about being cheeky or Machiavellian or anything like that. It's just a normal human conversation where you can actually say, well, I cannot give you what you're asking, but I can at least provide something that can be useful for you in exchange for something. So I think it's very important. The communication is probably number one most important thing in any business transaction.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I'll have to go back to that hotel because the I couldn't get past the agent because they were asking for proof of funds before I view the property. So I'm
Right.
thinking I'll just go and stay at the hotel for a night and then have a look and then maybe
Oh,
I'll be able to, yeah.
that's actually a brilliant model. If you see a hotel that's for sale, go and stay
Mm,
there.
okay.
Because not only you potentially might have a chance to speak to the owner, but
Yeah.
you also may get a feel of a hotel. Like how's the
Mm,
water pressure? What's the smell? Is there damp? Is there how much innovation will it require? Is it too dated? Is it too run down, or is it actually okay? And with a few licks of paint, you can turn it into something amazing. So
yeah.
that's a great thing that you just said.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and it's a business expense if you're staying in a hotel to view
And it's a
it.
business expense, yes.
Right. All right. Brilliant advice all round. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries, my
And
absolute pleasure.
yeah, I look forward to seeing you again at an academy event. Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
You as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Cheers.